Before Paris was free, before church bells rang and flags returned to balconies, a factory in Ohio was already at war, and what 15,000 ordinary workers built there would outrun tanks, cross oceans, survive bullets, and arrive in Paris before the liberators themselves. If you want to know how steel, sweat, and silence changed the course of history, subscribe now, because this story was never meant to be told this way. Inside Willys-Overland, Ohio, the war did not announce itself with explosions but with clocks, whistles, and the relentless rhythm of metal striking metal as 15,000 workers, many of them women, teenagers, farmers, immigrants, men too old or too injured to fight, walked through factory doors each morning carrying lunches, worries, and the quiet knowledge that something enormous depended on their hands. And long before soldiers landed on beaches or marched through shattered streets, these workers were already racing time itself, because the U.S. Army did not ask Willys-Overland for a vehicle, it demanded a miracle, a machine light enough to fly, strong enough to climb mountains, simple enough to repair under fire, and fast enough to outrun death. And at first it seemed impossible as blueprints were revised overnight, engines overheated, axles snapped, and inspectors rejected entire lines, yet the workers kept building, adapting, improvising. Learning the language of urgency where mistakes cost lives thousands of miles away, and as the months blurred into each other, the factory floor became a living organism, one shift flowing into the next without pause. Sparks lighting faces hardened by fatigue but sharpened by purpose, because each Jeep rolling off the line carried more than bolts and steel, it carried letters never written, children never met, homes never seen again. And by the time production reached its furious peak, 363,000 Jeeps had been born in Ohio, shipped in pieces across oceans, reassembled in mud, snow, sand, and blood, and driven by soldiers who trusted them like brothers. And here came the first twist history rarely admits. When Allied forces pushed toward Paris in 1944, it wasn't tanks that arrived first on the city's outskirts but Willys Jeeps, light, fast, and fearless, slipping through streets still uncertain. Carrying scouts, resistance fighters, radio operators, and hope itself, reaching key points before the thunder of liberation followed, and while crowds later cheered generals and flags, the workers in Ohio never heard the applause. Never saw the tears, because back home the factory never slowed, even as casualty lists grew longer and some workers recognized names that would never return, yet the line kept moving, because stopping felt like betrayal. And another quiet twist unfolded when German engineers themselves admitted after the war that the Jeep was one of the most decisive tools of Allied victory, not for its firepower, but for its adaptability, its stubborn refusal to fail. Mirroring the people who built it, and when Paris was finally free, photographs showed smiling soldiers leaning on Jeeps beneath the Eiffel Tower, unaware that the grease beneath their hands came from Ohio, that fingerprints of women named Ruth, men named Samuel, kids who lied about their age, were embedded forever in the steel, and years later when the war ended and whistles finally fell silent, the factory emptied into a different world, one that quickly forgot the urgency, the sacrifice. The nights spent sleeping beside machines, but history cannot fully erase the truth that before freedom marched, before victory spoke, before Paris breathed again, 15,000 workers in Willys-Overland, Ohio had already fought their war, not with rifles, but with resolve, and they won it one Jeep at a time.